Hello, welcome to our first video. In each video, we will be discussing a specific topic of controversy. The topic of today will be that of free will versus determinism. So, to explain how this debate is going to play out, I am the conversation leader, and in each video, there will be a specified conversation leader, and their role will be to keep the debate going and to ask interesting questions and to just get the opinions of each side. um Let me introduce our participants today. X.
Hello, hello there.
And we have Badawy.
Hello.
And I am YouAsh. So today, as I said, the topic is free will versus determinism. Now, to give some context, free will is the idea that you have the power to make your own choices and decisions freely without it being controlled by outside forces. You are the one in control. While determinism is the belief that everything, including your actions, is already predetermined, it's already caused by something else. And now we can just start the debate. Let's go ahead. X, what is your opinion on free will?
All right, so let's start with free will, and it's exactly as Yoash just described, the idea that you have control over everything you do personally, that you can make your own choices, you have independence, so to say. There's no external factors or any predetermined factors that are forcing you to do something. And I think many people would agree to that. I mean, it's a common logical way of thinking because everything we do in everyday life, for instance, the choices we make, what to eat, when to sleep, when to wake up, where to go, when to come back, literally our choices in everything, in our friends, in our dating life, if you have some. I don't know what that is about. You know what I'm saying? Little single sad man. But anyways, regardless of that, the idea of free will has been, it's been inherent in a human, especially in the human species, because, well, we've got brains, and mostly our brains allow us to think, to make choices, usually for our own self-interest or benefit. And it's these brains that allow us to do these different actions without worrying about someone else telling us to do them. If you had a dog, for instance, you probably all heard of the experiment where you ring a bell and the dog starts salivating because he knows somewhere that there's going to be food when that bell rings. However, as a human, you don't have to think about that. You have the free will. And I'm going a bit off topic here, but I'm trying to grasp the idea thoroughly from all angles. You have the free will, you have the brain to think, oh no, I don't want to eat now, or oh yes, I do want to eat now. And I think it's a very decent argument, although it's not my favorite. And I'll stop right there and I'll allow Bedawi to give us his thoughts on free will.
Well, in my opinion, I'm actually
I'm
kind
sorry,
of
can I just give a
leaning.
quick side note? So whoever is just like not talking just in case for anything, just mute your mic just in case. I'm just saying.
Okay. So my opinion actually falls kind of between both of them. In my opinion, that uh, everyone has his own free will. Obviously, they have their own choices. They choose where to be, what to do, how to think, and all that stuff. But at the same time, I think there are most most of the major events in everyone's lives, like they're already predetermined, and no matter how hard you try to change these things, at the end of the day they're gonna happen to you in some shape or form. But the idea of how you're gonna get to them, in my opinion, that's where free will comes in. The fact that the way of how you're gonna reach that point or end goal, that's where free will comes through.
You done?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Great points from each side. I'll go ahead and give my own opinion, my own point. Um, to me personally, free will. It is. I will side with both arguments because I mean free will. Let's just take free will. Free will is basically, if you think about it, almost, yeah, almost everything that you do, you take it in your own choice, your own hands. You do the thinking, you do all the cognitive processes. You are the one that, the idea pops into your head, and then it goes through messages from your brain to the rest of your body, and then you take the action. I mean, you are the one who is definitely in control. um, I will go ahead that and say, yeah, determinism also does play a role, but that's for another argument. So just free will, my opinion on it is, there's got to be, there's always this limitation that's always forced on us by nature and by the environment around us. How no matter how free you believe you are, there's always going to be things in your life that, like for example, when you wake up and and you just had a nightmare, you can't control any nightmares, right? But this is where free will to me gets a little bit, tricky, because yes, you do have free will, but you can't control when you go down from your house to go to work. You can't control when the taxi comes. You can't control where. So to me, like, free will, it's it gets tricky sometimes because it's always being affected by your environment, and it's always the environment is always imposing things on the actions and on the way you're going to behave throughout the day. And so it's very hard for me to say that, we all have free will, because, you know, ev- there's so many variables, so many factors going on in all of our lives. So this was for free will. If anyone's got any point to interject with me or any with anyone.
I think I'm ready to move on to determinism if you guys are.
All right. So determinism, just to remind, you, determinism is the belief that everything is already predetermined and is including your actions, meaning that nothing. It's the total opposite of free will. It's that everything you do is already planned out and you're just going through it. So let's start right now with. Let's change it up a little. Let's go with Badawy first. I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay, the point is that I'm actually leaning more towards free will, but I do have some points standing with determinism. As I said before, that like some things, for example, how can I explain this? For example, your status, your the amount of money you're gonna make, the how can I explain this more clearly? Basically, your status, all that stuff is predetermined, and the thing, your free will comes in with the way you reach that point. Guys, I'm struggling here.
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going. Keep
It's all
going.
right. It's all, like
Wait, let
it's
me think
fine. You can
about
just
this
take, yeah.
real quick.
All right. So okay. Um,
Because I'm not really siding with determinism that much. It's like kind of a
you
mix
don't
of
have
both.
to. You don't have to side with. I'm just like your opinion on it, like as a whole. Like, so you already gave us some like good points. If you want, I can give you more time to think. If you want, or if you can continue right now, you can continue. It's all good.
Hmm, damn, I'm blanking.
uh, okay, fine. All right, I'm gonna give you some time. We'll go to X for
Okay.
now. So give
All
us
right. All
your
right.
opinion on the matter.
All right. So personally, I'm not the complete opposite. It's really difficult to say you're the complete opposite, but I am leaning a bit more towards determinism being the predominant factor in like human life, you can say. Mainly because You see, I'm a guy of physics, and we know in physics that you just take the smallest thing you can imagine, and you go smaller and smaller and smaller, and then the smallest you get, that's the thing that controls everything. I'm trying to like put it in. So imagine an atom, then a nucleus, then a proton or a neutron or an electron, then get even deeper to like a point of a quark. That's really what determines everything. And if I take that same analogy and put it here, any action that you really think is an action of free will is usually behind it is usually a determinism factor. So say the weather is raining. You, being the intelligent human being you are and having free will, decide to not go out or decide to have an umbrella with you and a jacket when you do go out. But notice what just happened. Something in nature, something that's already been forced, a forced event, made you think that you're freely doing something, but are you really freely doing it? Are you, I mean, in intuitively or not intuitively, naturally, you could choose to also go out without that equipment or to go out, naked for all one could say, but you really don't. You think about your body and what it wants and what it's scared of getting a cold or catching a cold or getting like some sort of disease. So you go ahead and, wear heavy clothes and you get an umbrella and everything. And all of that is because of something in nature, an event that happened that's outside of your control. You can't control the weather now, can you? There's a whole meme about that. Damn woman, I can't control the weather. And that you really can't. And that event or that circumstance caused you to do something that you thought you were free to do. But in reality, you're not. You're not free to not take an umbrella. Literally you are, or figuratively, or like realistically you are, but figuratively you're not. You're scared of the rain, you're scared of the illness, you're scared of whatever it is you might be scared of, and that is caused by nature. Take another example, any other example, and you can simply boil down any free will event you do to determinism. You think you have the free will of eating food whenever you want, but you really don't. Because if you don't eat food, if you're like, okay, I have the free will, I'm not going to eat food, and you keep going, if you keep on going for a day, two, three, a week, a month, eventually your body will be like, no, we need to eat. And that's where an external factor comes in, starvation. And you've just got to eat. That's determinism. That's not your free will anymore. Same example with literally any other event or any other action, sorry, human action that you can think of, usually has an underlying force behind it. Even me talking right now, I could choose to stop talking all of a sudden, and that would be sort of an action of free will. But in reality, it's predetermined that I will keep talking to prove my argument. It's really a paradoxical, sort of weird thing that's going on, a loop, basically, where you think you're free, but are you really? It's a bit of a weird dilemma, you can say.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's why I'm gonna probably side with determinism over free will. Even if free will it does exist, it exists only because we choose something under the larger scale of determinism, or under the cloud of determinism.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I agree with that.
I
Badawy, you
actually
have a point?
disagree
Yeah.
with all that.
That okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Wait, did he just
Uh,
say? Did he just say he disagrees with all of it?
Yeah,
yes,
he
I do
disagrees.
Oh, okay,
disagree.
okay. Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
Like, for example, all the points you made that, oh, if it's raining or it's cold outside, that removes my free will from going outside, for example, with shorts and a pair of t-shirt, and because I'm scared from the cold weather or I'm gonna get sick or whatever. But when it actually comes down to these things, for example, oh, nobody wants to take a cold shower, a freezing cold shower, for example. But some people out there who actually, for example, who train their mind, let's say that, they have the free will and they actually trick their mind into thinking that they actually want to take a cold shower and they go and take that and they take that cold shower every day. People who, for example, it's goes to a lot of things. For example, things that give you an adrenaline rush, things that are very dangerous to do. The natural instinct would tell you not to do all these things, but some people go out there and do these things, which kind of stands to the point you're making, I guess.
No, I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. But then again, these like mind training things, they train their minds to free will. Exactly. It's like you exactly said. But then again, they're training their minds. That's only a small. like population. That's the first thing I want to say. Most of humanity probably can't do that.
Okay, sure.
Like, but the second example I want to touch on is, dangerous activities. For example, you can have the free will to stand and fight a lion. Okay, but your probabilities of winning against a lion or against a white bear are very low. So by determinism, and I know this seems abstract at the moment, but I'm really trying to, put it figuratively first, and then we go out of the picture, we zoom out. You have the free will to do anything, quite literally, If you want, you can stand up right now. You can literally jump out of a window. You have the free will to do that. Your body will allow you to do that. It's not a limitation, but you don't. Why do you not? Because your brain tells you you should not die, okay? Unless you have suicidal thoughts, which if you do, please find help if you're listening to this. It's a pretty serious issue. But generally, naturally, you will want to stay alive, and the human body does everything to keep you alive. And these are things fully out of your control. Because if you had the free will, you would not blink when something gets close to your eye. You would not move when a dangerous event happens, like a car is accelerating towards you or a lion is jumping at you. You just do nothing. And all these actions, or we call them reflexes, you can say, I feel boil down to determinism, that things are just going to happen out of your control. You don't have the free will to control or at least you don't have the free will to control all your actions. Okay, that's the thing I'm against free will on. Some actions you can control, and my argument is that even those ones are somehow predetermined, like the action of, I don't know, even your thoughts somehow are predetermined by the way you're raised, by your genetics, by your environment, by everything. Although you have some sort of freedom in them, you really don't have as much as people think they have. And this is not a depressing thing. I'm not telling you you're all robots or we're all just NPCs or something. We're just, we're not programmed either. We're just living life according to a set of rules that have been implanted in our brains. Everyone with their different rules and their different environments. And we live life according to that. No matter how much freedom you think you have, sometimes even the freedom of your two choices or three choices are limited because of like determinism. That's the thing I'm trying to, get at here.
All
But
right.
it makes perfect sense what you're saying. Yeah, that like we
I
usually
feel
can
like we're
train our
not.
mind.
I feel like we're not disagreeing. Actually, we're changing kind of the meaning of determinism. Like
Hmm.
I think we at the end of this argument that we agree on like the first point I made, which that both of them kind of do exist. That some
True. Yeah.
events
Yeah.
are gonna happen to us no matter how much we try to avoid them. That's if we know about them. And just free will comes into play in some weird ways, I
Exactly.
guess.
Yeah. Free will comes into play. Well, it's really, events are happening and how you react is the free will part. Like the path you choose to take,
Yeah,
Yeah.
even
yeah,
though both paths might
I
have
agree
known
with that.
ends, or they
Yeah.
probably have known ends, the free will is only that moment where you make a decision and then you choose either paths and it just plays out.
Yeah. Um. So let's take this topic from, okay. Let's take it somewhere. Let's take it down a side road. All right. So let's say let's bring this to the topic of moral responsibility. All right. So so you basically, both of you have agreed on how both of them basically coexist together, and it's like it can't be just one side of determinism and one side of free will. And I totally agree with that. But let's take a counter argument of moral responsibility. Let's say that the concept of moral responsibility is basically it has to do with free will, and it has to do with how, if we don't have free will, then, or if we don't have total free will, then does that mean that there are some actions that are caused by certain individuals that you can't basically judge them for it because it was already predetermined, whether we call it fate, whether it's scientifically, how the way they've been brought up with their environment since they were younger. You see, like, for example, I'll give an example. For example, how in movies and even in real life, when you see like serial killers, or you see people, it doesn't have to be major crimes, just people that did something, and it might have been wrong or it might have been not socially accepted, but that's because of a certain thing that was already underlying, and it caused them to have the conviction to do that action. And so this is where I'll ask if determinism does play a role in that, and things are already determined for that way, right? So does that mean that we cannot judge these people for certain things that they do because they were already influenced by them, whether by environment, meaning they don't have control over it. And so if they don't have control over it, then they didn't have the will to do it, which means that they basically did not do it, basically, or it didn't come from them 100%. So in your opinions, does that, what is your opinion on that? What is your opinion on it? Should they be judged for it? Should they not be judged for it? Let's start with X.
Yeah, so after a lot of yapping by YouAsh right there trying to introduce the topic, I'm just playing with
Hey
you.
yo.
Uh, the idea that there's this moral idea that gets into play, moral responsibility, let's call it, where if we have everything already predetermined by the argument of determinism, that there are external factors that control everything, including human actions and decisions, pardon me, then like what if someone does something illegal, or what if someone does something that's like inappropriate socially in a social setting, or does something that is inappropriate in a different culture, for instance. It's no longer free will at that point. It's determinism. They've been raised, or they're genetically more, I don't know, aggressive, more angry, or some sort of, you can make all sorts of different wild arguments. But essentially, there's really a fine line that we have to draw here. Sure, someone can be aggressive, someone can be angry, someone can come from a culture where it's normal to do certain types of jokes, or it's normal to do certain types of body behavior, or it's normal to do literally anything. It's a cultural thing, for instance, or an environment thing. But then there's that small little line where we have to say free will does have a huge factor, or does play a huge part. For instance, a guy could literally have the free will to beat someone up. You just see someone in the street, you're like, damn, I don't like the way this guy looks, or just in general, anything, and you just punch him, And in reality, that's no longer determinism. I'd like to make it very clear, no matter what my argument was emphasizing or stratifying, that is not determinism at this point. It was fully this person's free will to go ahead and punch the other dude. And that's why laws are made, to stop your free will damaging actions from hurting other people, or from hurting the society, or from hurting you even in person. That's why there's laws, there's a legal aspect of things, where, it's not predetermined as much anymore. You're gonna make a choice, and it's exactly what we said a couple of minutes before. You're gonna make a choice, and that's gonna take you down a path. The path might already be very clear. It might be determined, so to say, unironically, but you make the choice. You have the free will to do whichever action you want to do, and that free will is very important here morally, because you can do many things that are completely unacceptable morally, and people might, or you might just call it, or while your lawyer is defending you, just blame it on some external factors. But in reality, no, it's definitely, or more often than not definitely, but more often than not, your free will. And so it's really a complicated thing, and it's tough to even formulate it into words. But if I had to put it in one clear sentence, when it comes to morals, when it comes to society, when it comes to us as humans and humanity, nothing is um, forced on you to hurt someone. You're never unless of course someone's holding you at gunpoint, but you're never forced to hurt someone else. There's no determinism in that factor. It's definitely your free will if you choose to hurt someone. And yeah, that's all I have on mind right now.
All right.
I
Great
completely
points there.
agree. Wait, what?
Then let me compliment the dude for his points, and then you can go.
Okay, my
God.
bad. My bad. My bad.
Hey, listen, my people, my advisor, my followers are gonna be complimenting me all night long. Don't worry about it. No, I'm just
Yeah. Well,
Ending.
let's hope for it, man.
yeah, we'd hope.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hashtag X.
All right. Whether we go ahead.
Completely agree with X right here. that no matter how you were raised or brought up, that there's no excuse for your actions. We've seen people, for example, be raised in poor societies and become some of the richest people in the world. People who were abused as children, and they, at the end, they become really soft and gentle people. All that comes from free will, in my opinion. That no matter the consequences or the actions that were done to you, you still have the free will to act with what you see best fit, or if you want to, what you see worst. Like if you're evil, you might just want to cause some people some pain, which sometimes that is caused from trauma and mental issues, and sometimes how you were raised, you were treated in a harsh way, so then you want to treat other people how you felt. Or you can take the better option, which since I didn't like how I was treated, I'm not gonna treat people that way, which comes from free will.
Um,
I completely agree. And can I add a note on that before we move on?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go
I
ahead.
think it all touches back to what we again said previously, that life is going to happen to you, and that's the determinism part. Yeah, events are going to happen out of our control. No one would have expected, say, COVID. No one would have expected, say, any of the world war. I mean, expected, sure, but no one can have controlled it. Let's say these are all factors that were out of all of our controls. But our reaction to it, that's exactly, I think, what Badawy was trying to say. Our reaction to it, how we choose to come out of it, that's our free will. Do we want more people to suffer after us, or do we want less people? Person who was abused, does he want to abuse his children as well, or whatever it is, like some sort of abuse or damaging that he would want to do, a villain arc, if you'd like to say? Or do you want to become a better person and say, no, this happened to me already. I don't want it to happen to anyone else. That's exactly where free will jumps. So it's
I
really a
think,
mix of both. Life happens to you. How you react to it is free will.
yeah, I think we can summarize everything in like one sentence, that determinism is what happens and free will is how it happens.
Honestly, I like that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with
my
that.
man spitting. My man spitting hard right now. God. So
Summarizes the entire
I
argument.
so I
Fair
believe
play.
I believe that what we just reached in this argument. I was searching about it the other day, and it was called compatibilism, and that is basically how free will does coexist with uh, determinism. That is what some philosophers have gotten to. I will have to say that I obviously I do agree with every single thing you all just said. Um, it's that it's this these people that might do things because of, like like Badawi said, how some they weren't treated right when they were growing up. They wouldn't their environment they grew up in harsh environments. For example, some people grow up in very poor countries, and they have to survive, and they have to live out a certain lifestyle, which then leads them into a road of adopting this Machiavellianism type uh, thinking style, in which then it's like I'll do whatever to get to where I want to get, because I've always been stepped on my whole entire life. It's time for me to take what's mine. And I think that when we discover people like these, um, it's very tricky when it comes to their punishment. It's very tricky when it comes to their punishment. It's I believe that there has to be some sort of background check on the person, because you obviously have to punish them if they do something wrong, but at the same time, society today, and I don't know if y'all agree with this or not, but society today does not necessarily teach you what is, or like how it is supposed to happen, it like how you're supposed to act, or it does teach you it, but in a harsher way, in a way that does not inspire any sort of change within yourself. So if you were to take, for example, jail or whatever, people don't change in jail because they have been sent to jail. No, they read books, they discover themselves, all of that. So I just believe that when it comes to these people, these exceptions, we can, we can come to a certain middle ground. It doesn't have to be the far right extreme or the far left extreme. So, if anyone wants to add any other point to this argument, um, you can go ahead. And if you don't, then just say you don't. So, X.
I think I've spilled all my beans. You know what I'm saying? I have played all my cards, and I think we've come to conclusion that yeah, it's exactly as Badawy summarized it in one sentence.
We're all in an
Determinism,
agreement
life
right
will
now.
happen. We're all what?
In an agreement right now.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah, that determinism is just that life will happen. Factors will control the like external world factors will happen. Free will is how you choose to like choose your decisions, choose your
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah.
How are you going to play out? Are you going to be Batman or are you going to be Joker? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, are you going to be the good guy, the bad guy, or maybe it's not necessarily a good and bad people, just people with different reactions, different paths.
Yes. Yes. All right. It was great. We had a lot of fun doing this. And
It was, yes, sir.
well, this is it for today's topic. We have shared our opinions on the matter. Let us know in the comments, guys, where you stand exactly in this matter. And as a promise on our end, we will read each and every one of them. Um, we we are looking forward to your opinions. Just keep it respectful, and yeah,
Smash that like button,
smash
nigga.
that like button,
Yes,
peeps.
sir. Remember,
Subscribe,
debate. If you're
turn on.
debating, you better win. If you don't win, keep debating.
Oh, yep. All right, subscribe, turn on notification bell, and we'll see you in the next debate. Bye bye.
Peace.
Bye.